The What to Read Next podcast helps you build a TBR of future favorite books. In each episode, Lori and Maine interviews authors and book influencers to recommend books they loved for you to pick up today. If you're an avid reader, always looking for your next great read, then the show's for you. Hi, Megan. Welcome to What to Read Next podcast.
Hi, thank you for having me.
So happy to have you here. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
So I am I call myself a host, hype woman, and, light author stalker. I am a supporter of all things indie, and I loved helping indie authors promote their work, but I realized very quickly I am not a TikToker. Mm-hmm. It's not my medium. So I started a podcast early 2022, back in February, just to help support indie authors in their quest, but maybe in like a slightly longer format than TikTok. But I liked a lot of the stuff that was going on BookTok. So I call myself the BookTok podcast.
All right. So let's talk about first, what was your romance journey? When did you start reading romance? Was it during the 2020 BookTok explosion, or was it beforehand?
So romance overall, definitely, like always, I was an early reader, and I think like my first like romance was probably like a Twilight kind of deal. I reference Twilight a lot because I'm a big Twihard. But that was probably like my thing. YA dystopian romance was like hardcore my thing for a very long time. I was burned by Divergent, and I will sing about that until I die. And then, during the pandemic, I had kind of like just been intermittently reading, and then I got bored. I got laid off, and I was like, what am I going to do with my time? And so that was when I kind of had that resurgence into it. I started out again in YA, and then because I was doing ebooks, I wasn't really paying attention to what I was downloading. Mm-hmm. And so I just was like, somebody said on TikTok, which I also downloaded during the pandemic, oh, if you liked this book, here's like another vampire romance. And then it was a spicy vampire romance. And then I went, oh, okay. And then I immediately fell down a BookTok, SpicyTok rabbit hole that I have not gotten out of since. But it's been wonderful, and I love every minute of it.
All right, so let's chat about the podcast, because yours is a BookTok podcast. So talk to us about what kind of authors we can expect, what kind of conversations we expect, what kind of books we're going to expect from listening to your podcast. And it's Under the Covers, right?
Yes, it's called Under the Covers. I am the queen of puns. We also have a segment called Crack My Spine. I can't help myself. I really love a pun. So basically, the idea is that I don't think 15 seconds was enough for me to like get a sense of a book. And I really wanted to talk to these authors and help them promote their work. I tried my hand at TikTok. I was not great at it. So I said, what can I do? I'm pretty good at chatting. And I like asking questions. I like interviewing. That's always been something that I really enjoyed. I did have a journalism major for like a hot minute in college. So, I just figured this would be more of my medium. So I went out on a limb and I said, would any of these authors that I follow on BookTok, who I was really obsessed with, be interested in being on it? Would any of these BookTokers be interested in kind of, expanding on what they talk about on their TikTok, learning a little bit more about them, kind of getting under the covers with them, like I say. And I got a resounding amount of yeses very fast, which is very confusing and concerning for me. And I didn't quite know what to do with that, but I figured it was worth a shot. So under the guidance of my friend Christine, who I will always credit with being like the person who pushed me to do it, she was like, no, you can totally do this. And I have zero faith in myself. She has 100% faith in me, which is very weird. Everyone should have a Christine, I say. But she was like, just go for it. So about a month later, it was live, and I was very, very scared, but very excited. It was fun.
Oh my gosh, I love this. And so you're actually hitting a niche that is actually popular. Like it's actually like hitting the mark, because you're noticing BookTok, like, there's different book communities out there. They've been around for years and years, but BookTok is translating to bestsellers, is translating for authors to have, make money.
Yeah. It's
Uh,
fantastic. It's like a great place for indie authors to just, really take off. People, it's not, I always say like the thing that really pisses me off is about like the traditional publishing houses telling people like, this isn't what the public wants. But like we're seeing from BookTok that that's entirely not true. Like a bunch of white men in a building who haven't like read anything else in 40 years, like they are not the trendsetters. They are not the people who are buying. I don't necessarily know that like all the traditional publishing houses are so in touch with what people want. And so that was something, to me, I'm very pro, women-owned businesses and women empowerment, and these people who have been able to, make this their career and work from home and support their families. And this is amazing for them. I think maybe 2 weeks ago, Sarah Kate was #1 in the whole Kindle store. She's amazing. She's a fantastic writer. So just getting that recognition, I mean, #1 in the whole store was like fantastic. I was just messaging her like when it hit, and I was like, this is amazing. I'm so happy for you. But just getting to see that, seeing these women on the table in Barnes and Noble, like this is amazing for them. So,
yeah.
anything little I can do to push that forward for them, I'm happy to, but I'm just happy to watch them shine too.
It's amazing. To be honest, before BookTok, these indies were not in Barnes and Nobles. Barnes and Nobles were like a gatekeepers are like, no, we're not having you. You don't sell. You don't sell. And so it's amazing to see like how much has changed. Like that small community can actually trigger, a change in how we buy books, like what we consume and like how we actually use Kindle Unlimited, and then we buy a book and we buy in different formats and like we become obsessed and we become evangelicals about these books.
Oh, absolutely. Like that's why when I title myself like hype woman is in there. Like I want to be every indie author's #1 hype woman. If I love a book, all I want to do is share it with the world. So, I mean, if I can do that, and if we can get these people like in front of, casual readers, which I think is like the biggest thing to be able to do. This BookTok table has done it, being in Barnes and Noble, seeing a Zodiac Academy display in Barnes and Noble is like blowing my mind. It's so exciting. So like every time I see this, I went to the JFK airport and I saw a copy of, Scarlett St. Clair's book there. And I know Emily, who, I remember watching when she was doing the covers for the very first books. And so I immediately was like, Emily, your book, your cover, your art is like out in a bookstore in an airport in JFK, in Hudson News with every bestseller that's been on the market. And I'm like, that's amazing that like we have come to this point where like, Scarlett's book, now she's with Bloom Publishing and, keeping a lot of her creativity, I'm sure, through that market, because I know that's, a really important thing to them. But just all these new avenues that have been explored are really great.
Yeah. All right. So let's get to the meat, the reason why people are looking for this episode. Let's talk about SpicyTok Book Talk recommendations. Give it to us.
Okay, so I boiled it down to my top 5, even though this like changes on a daily basis. I am a mood reader, and I am a noted cover whore. So it's really whatever catches my eye that day. But I think these right now are my top 5. So starting off with Tate James' Hades series, fantastic. I will say I'm into a lot of like dark romance, a lot of like forbidden or taboo, but also just anything reverse harem is usually a win for me. So you'll see a lot of that on here, to be fair. But Hades is perfection. She's a badass female main character, which you'll also notice is a lot of my recommendations because I really love that. I love a strong female lead. And Tate's writing is amazing, and her entire backlist is perfection, but this series in particular is my favorite. It also has one of my favorite male main characters of all time. So if anybody reads it and sees something about a gumdrop, that's my guy. R.A. Smith, also her Pacific Prep series. I read about a page of it and was like instantly in love. She is a fantastic writer. Again, Hadley, badass. Interesting twists in the book, things I didn't see coming, which I thought was really great. I think when we read a lot of us see things coming pretty quickly, after a while. But this didn't fall into any traditional tropes that I knew. It didn't fall into any traditional patterns. So I really loved that one. And anytime that there is an academy, or a prep school, anything. I love those. I don't know why.
Yeah.
It's always great.
Rich kids behave badly, rich kids behave badly.
It's because I am part of a high school sweetheart couple, I feel like. It is, it goes back, like I read books that are just a heightened form of my reality. It's my theory. So everything like ties back to like my own life in some way. I just feel like I'm getting to exist in another space. It's very nice.
There we go.
Another one, and this one's not reverse harem, so if that's not your thing, this is probably a good one for you, is Nikki Castle's Fight Club series. 5 Rounds in particular is my favorite. I know everyone is obsessed with 2 fights, and everyone thinks Jax is the best, but Tristan's my guy. I love enemies to lovers. I love a little angst. And they definitely have it. Their banter is great. But if you like friends to lovers, keep reading, because the second book in the series is actually friends to lovers, which is really fun. Nikki brings the heat though. So if you like spicy, this is your book. It hits. And it's fantastic. So the series that I think I talk about probably the most is either the one I mentioned before, Hades. The other one I talk about all the time is Ruthless Boys of Zodiac Academy. It is a completed series. I will not give you all of the ones I'm mentioning are completed, so you can binge them, but that one is fantastic. It's by Caroline Peckham and Susan Valenti. They are a dynamic sister duo. They write, it is a completed series, so I will tell you this, they write like the most brutal cliffhangers, but they're great. And their characters are great. And in this one, I think this one is particularly my favorite because I do really love the female lead. Like I say, I'm always here for like a badass female lead. She puts the boys in their place, and I kind of love it. Even like these, and there's 2 like rival gang guys, and you're like, how is this gonna work? And she's like tames every one of them. She's like, absolutely not having this. I love it. And then my last one is not complete, but it will be complete in September, so it's like really soon. So I wouldn't like leave you guys hanging too long.
Yeah.
But J. Bree Bonds That Tie series, I loved her. One of I think the first reverse harems I read was her Hannaford Prep series.
Yep, I read that one.
And I know a lot of people love it. It's fantastic. Wolf of Bounce Bay forever, absolutely. But I think she may have outdone herself with this new one. And I remember watching her live where she announced that she was going to do a paranormal, and Hannaford Prep is contemporary. Bonds is paranormal. And she seemed kind of like, are people going to be okay with this? Are people going to like it? And my God, it's so good. Okay. I have been obsessed ever since. You can message me when you read this and tell me who your favorite is, and I will tell you if you're right or wrong. But it is fantastic. It is a reverse harem, but it is, I think, one of the most well-written. It's slow burn. It is spicy, but it's not until the later books. Like, it gets there. It's kind of like Hannaford Prep. There's a lot of buildup, but the plot is phenomenal. The world building is great. She really writes an amazing paranormal. So if you like PNR, this is probably going to be your thing.
I think I'm going to read that next because I'm having trouble reading contemporary just because of the way of the world. So paranormal seems to be working. I need some magic. I need something else. Like, I need a little bit extra,
Oh my God, it's so good. And it's like, she's really good about, I'm somebody who, like, if you leave me too many like Easter eggs and trails to follow, I start like searching through Kindle and I get like, I lose it. Like, I can't focus on it. She writes it. I've never skipped to the end. Like, I do not skip to the end to find out what's going on. I don't feel like it's tedious. I don't feel like it's dragging on. It is like perfectly, like, she just drops like the right amount of information at the right times to keep you like going through the whole thing. And it's really good. Oh my gosh. There's a lot of fun mystery in there.
I can't wait to read this. What are you currently reading?
I'm currently reading Caroline Peckham and Susan Valenti's last book in the Harlequin Crew series, Gallows Bridge. And that is a great series. Maverick is everything. If you disagree with me, you can come at me in my DMs because you're wrong. Every reverse harem, I have a favorite and everyone else is wrong. Sometimes I have a least favorite, which I'll let you know as well. But I usually have a very clear ranking system. Which is entirely not the point of a reverse harem. No. And if you enjoy hot takes, you will also enjoy on my podcast where I make authors I don't know if I'm allowed to curse on this, but
Yeah.
F, Marry, Kill. Fuck, Marry, Kill their own reverse harem members. They're like, I wrote them. I love them all. And I'm like, no, it's fun. So yes, I do have like a very clear order, and I will drop that guillotine so fast. It's always a good time. So yes, Maverick will always win out on that one. But the other guys, I won't tell you who. But if you message me after you've read it, I'll tell you who is the exact order.
Okay. Okay, that's a teaser for you to read, and an a call to action to connect with you. So
yes,
how do
bother me, and you can curse me out in my DMs for making you read all of these, because they're all a roller coaster, but in the best way.
All right, so tell us how we can connect with you. How can we actually talk to you in your DMs? Where do we connect with you? Instagram, TikTok?
Instagram. I am on TikTok. I'm terrible about updating. Like I said, I am an awful TikToker. I am at Literature and Lyrics on TikTok. You can go there and find me and my awful like Canva TikToks that I made with little captions. But my main place is Instagram. I am at Under the Covers Pod on Instagram. You can slide into my DMs there. I am crazy, and I will message you back. And I love if I torture you with a book, definitely at me. I'm here for it. I can take the abuse. I love it. And then we also have a Facebook and a Facebook group. It's just at Under the Covers Podcast on Facebook. Same with the Facebook group. I do also a offshoot podcast. Intermittently, it's a live one. It's called The Dirty Tease. It's where we share a spoiler. It's mostly spoiler free, but because people are sensitive, I say spoiler light, chat about a new book that just came out. I talk with some of the ARC readers or early readers of it. Sometimes the author's on as well. And we like ask dumb questions. And so you can watch those videos there. They're like 20 minutes or less, but they're really fun. Get you hyped for a new book or series and see if you might want to be reading it. But we don't give anything about the plot away. Just that there's usually individuals, more than one, and they fall in love. And there's generally a happily ever after at the end because it's a romance.
Yeah. Pretty much. Spoiler.
And then we have a website. I don't keep it up to date as much as I should. I really need to do that. It's at Under the Cover. Oh, it's www.underthecoverspodcast.com. So you can go there as well.
Thank you, Megan, for being on the show.
Yeah, thank you for having me. This is so fun.
If you enjoyed this podcast, feel free to share with friends, subscribe, rate, and review the show. This is the easiest way to support the podcast. For a list of books mentioned and other romance recommendations, please visit watchrenextblog.com. Did you know you can purchase audiobooks directly from your favorite local bookstore? With Libra.fm, you can pick up more than 250,000 audiobooks, including bestsellers and recommendations from real booksellers. You'll get the same audiobooks at the same price as the largest audiobook company, you know the name, but you'll be part of a different story, one that supports the local community. If you're new to audiobooks, they're the perfect way to squeeze more reading into your busy life. Listen with the free Libra.fm app while you do your chores, walk the dog, relax at home. If you already love audiobooks and don't know what to listen next, check out recommendations from people who know the best booksellers. The Watch Read Next podcast has a special offer for our listeners. Get 2 audiobooks on Libra.fm for the price of 1 with your first month membership. Use code WatchReadNext. The offer is valid only for new members in Canada and the US. The Watch Read Next podcast is part of the Frolic Podcast Network. Please visit frolic.media/podcast to discover new shows to tune in. Thank you so much for listening and have a great day.